Hello, my name's Ian Shepherd of WSP. I'm going to give you an introduction to the ProjectView web mapping application that WSP has developed for England's economic heartland. Here's my details on screen, so if you've got any further questions, follow-up queries, then get in touch and I'll be able to answer those for you. ProjectView runs in an ordinary web browser, so there's no software downloads, plugins or installations needed, but it is access controlled, so people need a username and password before they can get into the system. ProjectView has the facility to separate content by user, so different users could see a different set of map views here, so they can see the content that's most relevant to them, but in this application we've got the same main map view for everyone, so I'll just click through to that. Most of the things we need are on this context menu area. So we have sort of baseline information that gives us the context of how the region operates, and then we have transport information that shows how people are getting around. So if I just switch on census population here, one of the things that jumps out for me, as I'm from near Cambridge, is that you can very clearly see the effect of the Cambridge Greenbelt there. So lots of pale colours surrounding the urban area where development is not allowed, and then a denser donut further out where a lot of people who work in Cambridge live, and so they have relatively long in-commuting journeys. If I switch on workplace population as well here and then interrogate a couple of areas, this MSOA West Centre Cambridge here, 15,000 people live, 26,500 people work there. Down in Trumpington here, to the south, 8,000 residents, nearly 12,000 workers, and here where the main hospital is, 9,000 residents, 15,000 workers. So there has to be a fair degree of commuting going on for those people to be able to get to where they want to go. So we've picked out the ONS defined urban centres here. These are the continuous urban areas by ONS definition, and this is recording how many workers are available within those urban areas. So we're looking at the potential size of those urban economies, and here's the gross value added for those whole districts, and the largest economic contributor in the region is Milton Keynes, with a gross value added of nearly £11 billion. Looking at car availability, as we'd expect, car availability, car ownership is much lower in the urban areas where people have less need of car transport and better availability of public transport. And then in some of these rural hinterlands, car ownership is getting towards being almost universal, and car is very much going to be the dominant mode of travel. Okay, if we look at the distance people are travelling to work, you can see in the darker, deeper colours here, there's some rural hinterlands where people are travelling quite long distances to get to work. In this Huntingdon area, then we're sort of well above the national average distance for commuting. And if we look at how people are doing those journeys, we can see that the blue of car driver is pretty consistently around 3/4 in across the region, and if you add to that this green area of car passenger, then the mode share of car is in that 85% region, right across the region, apart from in the two renowned cycling centres of Oxford and Cambridge. So the car mode shares down around 50% in both those areas, and the sort of lime green of bicycle is much more prominent. It's hardly visible anywhere else. The biggest mode apart from car everywhere else in the region is this orangey coloured slice, which is people going to work on foot. ProjectView has within it a viewer for transport modelling results, and the problem with viewing model results is you very quickly get a combinatorial explosion, and so in a conventional map system it's very difficult to offer all the options that users would want when you've got a number of different years, you've got different scenarios being tested, and you've got different indicators that you want to see. So we've got a bespoke transport model interface in ProjectView to keep that situation under control. So you pick your scenario, pick what you want to see, and ProjectView will retrieve that data for you and put it on the map. So here we've got volume over capacity, which is a measure of the stress on the network, so likely congestion, and it's picking out those areas that are most heavily congested in the current day. So the system allows you to compare two different scenarios. So if we pick a second scenario, we'll then be shown the differences between the two. So as you'd expect, between 2015 and 2031, the amount of traffic on the network is increasing in most places, but there are a few blue links evident on the map, and that's where the volume versus capacity is going down, either because the capacity of the road's been increased or because some measures been taken to discourage people from using that particular route. We have some real-world measured traffic data on here. So here's the speeds that drivers can expect on the main routes in the region in the morning peak. And one of the things that's most prominent in that view is the contrast between Oxford with its ring road system there and Aylesbury, where through traffic passing through Aylesbury has to fight its way through the middle of the town on a traditional radial road network, and will experience some of the lowest speeds as a result of that. We're not saying that the speeds in the centre of Oxford are any higher, it's just that that through traffic doesn't have to experience them. We've got rail station usage on here. So these are the biggest stations by annual footfall. So Cambridge is both a in commuting and out commuting destination, and so we can, it's got more people go through there than the other stations, but we can see where the biggest centres of rail are throughout the region. So in order to pick up a bit more detail on how people are travelling, we've got a origin destination viewer in here. So if I pick on a district here, we've got this at district and MSOA level for more detail, and we've included London because it's an important destination for commuting trips. So if I click on a district here, so if I click on London, then the system will show me the top 10 by default commuting flows that are heading for London. So the biggest single contributor here, nearly 10,000 people are going from that sort of Wickham district there into London by all modes. If we have a look at rail on its own, then the biggest single contributor is Central Bedfordshire, with over 5,500 rail commuters going in there. But something that I certainly found surprising was that if we look at car commuting, there's pretty much as many, the pattern is slightly different, but there's pretty much as many car commuters to London as there are rail commuters. And that's probably a slightly distorted picture because we're looking at the main mode of travel only here. So those rail commuters very likely drove to a station in the first place, and these car commuters, maybe a lot of them are driving to the end of a tube line or something like that. So there's probably a mixed mode element that's that wasn't picked up in that census data. Looking at Cambridge again as a commuting centre, you can see that car drivers heading for Cambridge are dominated by, seen as Cambridge is surrounded by the district of South Cambridgeshire, it's no surprise that most car commuters are coming from that area, 15,000. A significant number are coming from this Fenland area. 5,000 people are driving down from that Ely sort of region. But if we look at train commuting in Cambridge, into Cambridge, then it's very much dominated by that one commuter line coming down from Ely. Nearly 3/4 of all those rail passengers are coming down that one line. In contrast that with Oxford, where rail commuting seems relatively distributed. I think car the same. There's a much more even pattern of in-commuting all around the compass. So we have forecast demand data on our system as well. So here's the Tempro government population forecasts, and you can see this little time slider here. If I move that, then I'm shown the data that's relevant to that year. So here we can see the colours are darkening as population is increasing across the region through time. Households are increasing a bit faster because the current phenomenon that household size is declining as people get better off is expected to continue throughout these forecasts. So we can see much deeper colours coming in for households as it changes. We've collected the strategic sites from local plans throughout the region. So here's the employment sites that are expected to be developed over that local plan period. We don't have timings for the employment. So these are shown as of fixed size, but the housing, we do know the build out profile that's expected. So as I move the time slider here, we can see that the number of houses that each of those sites has contributed starts to grow as they gradually get built out. And if I click on one of those sites, then I can see in detail that build out profile, so I can determine exactly how many houses have been added to the stock by each date in our forecast period. So that's the ProjectView England's Economic Heartland application. Thanks for watching, and once again here's my details, so if you want to get in touch for any reason, that's where you can find me.